Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike Guerin. I'm with Team Kane Solutions, Inc., and I will be the host and MC for the webinar that we're doing this afternoon on JDE Edwards AP Automation Made Easy. So there's my smiling face up there. Thanks, Richard. Thank you, Yost. A little out of date, actually lost my mustache. Well, I didn't lose it. I shaved it off about a year and a half ago. But anyway, I am with Team Kane Solutions, Inc. I am a senior advisor to the organization. People familiar with me, we were Team Kane up until beginning of June this year. And at that point, I sold and transitioned the company over. We are now in a division or an ISP3 company. And I have transitioned to my new role of senior advisor, which I'm enjoying very much. Joining us as well are Richard Van de Boosport and Joost Engel from SCANMAN from FORZA Consulting. Guys, if you want to take a minute and introduce yourselves.
Sure do. Thank you, Mike. My name is Joost Engel, SCANMAN Sales Manager here at FORZA Consulting. I help our clients with our SCANMAN product for their first purchase, as well as delivering add-ons as they start leveraging our software to the fullest.
Yeah, my name is Richard Van de Boosport, and I'm running the SCANMAN practice within FORZA. I'm very knowledgeable on the JDE Edwards solution and on the business processes related to invoice automation. And I'm being asked to perform the demonstration.
Awesome. So you're the dog out of the dog and pony today.
Exactly.
It's going to be a wonderful show as usual, Richard. Thank you. Thanks, guys. So just a little bit about ourselves, Team Kane Solutions, Inc. as the host for this. Team Kane itself has been in business for over 20 years now. As part of ISP3, Team Kane Solutions combined do pretty much everything that you'd want on the JDE Edwards side, be that EnterpriseOne or World. We are also very strong in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure as a Service. ISP3 itself runs the business on Oracle's public cloud. So, and actually have done presentations and testimonials with Lyle Oracle on that. ISP3 is also an official partner of one of Oracle's other products, which is the NetSuite solution. So if you have other divisions or smaller ones that are looking for a solution like that, we'd be happy to talk to you about that as well. Next slide, please. One of the other things that we provide is solutions that very much extend what you have within JDE Edwards. On the screen here are some of the main ones. PACMAN, which is Package Build Automation, which is a tool that your CNC folk would absolutely love because it simplifies their life and gets them away from 2 a.m. package build and monitoring, is a great solution. Self-service password reset, another one that can significantly help out your help desk. And AP automation. The ones on the left side there are all from our friends at FORZA. So the ones that we are doing this session on SCANMAN with. We also on our side offer pre-built smart BI Publisher forms, BI Publisher fax. We work with and have for a long time the leading advanced data archiving and purging solution for JDE Edwards, Oracle Validated Integration, which is Purge It, as well as RF automation through RF Smart, and we've been working with them for coming up on 20 years now. So just a quick overview of ourselves. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Joost.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for the introductions. Yeah, per our introduction, Richard and myself, Joost Engel, will take over from here. Joost will do the slide deck, just briefly explaining what SCANMAN is and what it does, as well as providing an introduction on FORZA Consulting, after which Richard will take over for the live system demo. Looking at FORZA Consulting, we're an Oracle business partner specialized in services and products for JDE Edwards EnterpriseOne, as well as NetSuite. As you can see by our numbers, we're a business partner with a solid customer base and also displaying healthy growing rates, year-on-year growth rates. We support our customers with a variety of challenges such as system implementations, upgrades, managed services, rollout, system integrations, and cloud hosting solutions as well. In addition to that, we have a separate development department, and basically what they do is they develop add-on solutions both for NetSuite as well as for JDE Edwards EnterpriseOne. And SCANMAN is a very good example of one of those. And basically what we're trying to do here is meet your business needs and filling the gaps that your ERP or JDE Edwards left for you. Our topics for today, what we'll cover is the E1 technology behind SCANMAN, the SCANMAN invoice processing process, the OCR scanning and recognition. Of course, we leverage an OCR engine as well, so we'll zoom in on that, how that works, and how we're capable of generating some very efficient recognition rates. And of course, we'll also zoom in on the workflow approval routing and invoice matching scenarios. Next up, Richard will bring all of this together in a live system demo consisting of two end-to-end invoice processing scenarios, one of which will focus on cost or direct invoice processing, including the approval routing, and the second being a PO-based invoice process. After all this, we'll highlight our 5-step implementation approach, showing just how easily and obtainable your AP automation benefits are when implementing SCANMAN. SCANMAN is a native JDE Edwards AP automation solution, so it fully leverages your investment in JDE Edwards, it lowers your total cost of ownership, and it expands your JDE Edwards lifespan. It's built within the JDE Edwards toolset, and it's been validated by Oracle on release 9.0, 9.1, and 9.2. So we have the OVI certification. So looking at SCANMAN, SCANMAN is best considered as another JDE Edwards module completely pre-integrated into your current E1 modules, and it seamlessly connects to your current E1 processes. It delivers direct access to your master data lookup from your supplier ledger, general ledger, address book, and so on. So it's truly completely embedded within JDE Edwards without the need for any complex integrations. There's no need for any data synchronization, and there's no duplication of functionality whatsoever. We just leverage what you've already purchased. In addition to the standard Oracle building blocks, an example, the E1 pages, the Cafe 1 applications, the voucher logging, voucher match application, and of course the chart of authority, the business services service, and the AAS server. We have developed we've added comprehensive functions and applications built within the FORZA product code. Now this code is provided to us by Oracle. What else have we done? We've added a best-in-class OCR engine, and we've tied all these components together to deliver an end-to-end AP automation solution. And this solution delivers automated invoice data entry in JDE Edwards, electronic approval routing, automated 2- and 3-way matching, and it enhances your process accuracy and visibility. While adding the benefits of a single source truth system, there's a single database, E1, and your invoice in EnterpriseOne will never leave your system again. So it completely eliminates the need to run separate applications side by side. Deliver the familiar JDE Edwards user interface, the familiar technology, JDE Edwards security, and applications. So it's easily to maintain for your IT department and your local Oracle business partner. So how does SCANMAN work? Well, let's zoom in on the process. On the left-hand side of your screen, we see supplier invoices coming in. So typically these are hard copy invoices coming in by email or fax. We have PDF invoices coming in by email as well. And then there's the digital formats or the XML invoices coming in as well. As an option, we have a supplier portal available which can be used at the front of your process to upload invoices, provide your vendors and suppliers access to that portal to which they can upload the invoice, or we can put it at the back end, allowing them to view invoice statuses and other information on their invoices. This is an optional part of the solution, so we'll focus on the top 3. Hard copy or paper-based invoices are scanned using a scanner device, storing the scanned image on either a network directory or sending it to an email address. From both an email address and a network location, our SCANMAN solution will automatically collect your PDF attachments or your invoice files and process them through the OCR engine. The OCR engine is where we convert your actual invoice into JDE Edwards data. So we're not just interpreting the data that's on the invoice, we're directly converting it into the format that you would normally enter it in manually in JDE Edwards. Using the business services server integration, we directly populate that data entry into those JDE Edwards entry fields. So as soon as the OCR engine has completed its work, your invoice and your invoice data is directly available within JDE Edwards. It is available for verification purposes, allowing AP staff to verify that the OCR engine has captured the correct data. It's there for coding purposes, we can automatically route the invoice to the voucher match application for a manual or either automatic matching. And we can also trigger approval workflows, routing the invoice through your organization for approval. Of course, we can also generate reporting from SCANMAN. What's good to know here is that we store all the invoice data in a single JDE Edwards repository, which means that you can embrace or use the actual reporting solution that you might already have in place to slice and dice the data in accordance to your reporting needs. Of course, we're also generating a full audit trail completely within JDE Edwards from the very moment that we collect an invoice up until the invoice has been approved for payment. Additionally, the approval process can be extended from JDE Edwards EnterpriseOne across mobile platforms using the SCANMAN mobile approval application, and for this purpose we use the AIS server. Looking at the digital format invoices, also fully supported, and when they come into your organization using the business services server, once again we can directly populate that electronic data into JDE Edwards. Your benefit here is that you're able to bypass the OCR engine, which means that you have a full 100% recognition rate every single time, which of course is an efficiency gain. Once again, from that point in time, your invoice is available in JDE Edwards for further processing. OCR Scanning and Recognition. For data capture, SCANMAN relies on the best-in-class OCR engine powered by Abby, allowing SCANMAN to process invoices in over 180 different languages and multiple currencies. In addition to the algorithms and scoring mechanisms, FORZA has added an invoice keyword database, entirely eliminating the need to maintain invoice templates. So what is this OCR engine capable of capturing? Both header and line item information, and pretty much any and all fields on your invoice, whether these are words, amounts, dates, barcodes, or web addresses. We've added a unique touch to the OCR engine by developing an invoice reference library, and this is a database which contains a variety of invoice reference fields found on your invoice. So rather than maintaining templates per supplier where you indicate where to find specific data, SCANMAN automatically recognizes reference keywords no matter what their location is on the invoice. Once the keyword has been identified, in this example we'll take invoice number, the solution knows that there's a 90% probability to find the actual invoice number to the right of the keyword. If it doesn't find the actual invoice number to the right, the solution knows that the next most probable location is to retrieve the actual invoice number below the keyword or even to the left or above. So it will keep searching until it finds the correct value. There's also a scoring mechanism inside, which means that if it would have found a date format where it would initially look for the invoice number, it's smart enough to know, okay, this is not the invoice number that I'm looking for, but this is a date format. I'll continue my search for that invoice number. Although multiple languages and variety of keywords are in the database, of course it can occur that an invoice reference keyword is not included. So we can directly add keywords to the database from JDE Edwards. So actually when an invoice comes in which is not automatically processed, your user can add those specific keywords to the database, ensuring the next time this invoice is received, it will flow through your process automatically. As we start processing invoices, recognizing your supplier is of course of vital importance, and since we're completely tied into the JDE Edwards database, we can use multiple invoice tags to retrieve the supplier information directly from your supplier ledger in JDE Edwards, or even from the address book. So what unique identifiers can we use? Well, pretty much any and all unique identifiers listed on the invoice and stored within your JDE Edwards database. So these can be address lines, tax IDs, supplier names, web addresses, email addresses, bank account information. Pretty much any and all unique specific references can be used. Looking at the SCANMAN user interface. The user interface is based on E1 pages, watch list, and Cafe 1. So let's zoom in on that. The AP dashboard, based on that E1 page, provides access to all SCANMAN applications, ranging from your setup to your workbench to the approval routing application and the JDE Edwards voucher match application. By clicking on a single button on the SCANMAN workbench, or by clicking on a button, the particular application will open up. We'll zoom in on the SCANMAN Workbench, which is the day-to-day screen for your AP to process invoices. By clicking on the SCANMAN Workbench, the split screen application will open up, and this is the Cafe 1 application where we show the actual invoice picture side by side of the data that we've captured from it. At the bottom side of the screen, you'll see 3 reports, and as said, customers have full flexibility to design custom reports as we store all the invoice data in a single E1 repository, allowing you to slice and dice data and to work with the E1 reporting tools that you might already have in place. Zooming in on the SCANMAN Workbench. In the midst of the screen is AP's work list where they select their invoice. They click on a single invoice, after which the invoice image will pop up on the right, and they visually verify if the OCR has captured the data correctly using the invoice picture on the right and the data that's been captured on the left in the SCANMAN invoice header fields. You see both the import value and the process value. The import value is the value that we've taken or captured by OCR, and the process value is exactly that data cross-referenced to your JDE Edwards database. So this particular supplier has been identified by using his bank account number, cross-referenced that to the JDE Edwards database, and we came back with a JDE Edwards supplier number. We did the same with the invoice number. We cross-referenced that to the JDE Edwards database as well, ensuring that this is not a duplicate invoice for this particular supplier. As you can see by the tag invoice date, we've directly converted the invoice date that we captured from the invoice and converted that into the way that you would normally key it in manually. You also see that the currency has been pre-populated. We can fetch either the currency from the invoice, so capture it by OCR, but we can also directly take it from the supplier ledger where you've identified a currency for your supplier. Approvals. Approvals are supported directly within EnterpriseOne and also through the mobile approval application available in the Android and Apple marketplace. Zooming in on, once again, the E1 page, there's a watch list with a counter below it with the number 2 indicating that for this particular user there's 2 invoices that need approval. You click on the voucher approval button and the work with voucher approval application will pop up. We see 2 lines, which means that there are indeed 2 invoices for us to approve. We click a single line, and when we do, a picture of the actual invoice will pop up on this screen for visual verification purposes. Of course, we can approve the invoice from this screen, but we can also reject it. And when we reject an invoice, typically we'll ask you to put in a rejection reason so that when we route it back to AP knows why this particular invoice has been rejected and the appropriate actions to take. What else can we do from this screen? We can put the actual invoice on hold, notifying the AP staff that it is under review. We can start a Q&A session to someone else in the organization asking for input on this particular invoice and the approval process as well. Secondly, there's email notifications. We've come across situations where there are users that do not frequently work with JDE Edwards, yet they need to approve invoices. To alert these particular users, other than on their E1 page, we can alert these users through an email notification. This is an HTML-based email notification, which means that it can be designed to reflect your company logo and that information that you want to include. At the bottom side of the screen is a button, SM Invoice, SCANMAN Invoice, and as soon as you click that, you're either redirected to the JDE Edwards Work with Voucher Approval application that we've just seen, or we can direct you to the mobile approval app. Our mobile approval app is available in the marketplaces. You can just download it, and once you've been set up, a user logs in using his email and his password, and a work list will pop up. Basically, this is the same list as you would see in JDE Edwards, only with a different user interface. We can click on an invoice, and when we do, we'll see a drop-down menu where the green check marks obviously to approve the invoice, and then there's the red X to reject it. Once again, if you reject an invoice, we'll ask you for a rejection reason prior to routing it back to AP. We can also click the blue eye, and this will open up the other features that we also had in JDE Edwards. So it's an exact duplication of functionality, only extended to a mobile platform. So additional features include putting the invoice on hold, starting a Q&A session, and pulling up an image of the actual invoice as well. As soon as it's a PO-based invoice, we can route it to the voucher match application. For those familiar with the voucher match application delivered by Oracle, standardly included, there are 7 matching scenarios. What we found across our customer base is that they don't necessarily meet your day-to-day matching requirements. So what we've done is added a number of matching rules to the standard VMA. So basically this allows us to work with landed cost functionality, to work with matching with additional order costs, in example freight lines. We're able to support the two-way matching for your service orders, and also to have an approval routing after a match has been performed. So with that, I'm going to switch over to Richard for the live demo. So Richard, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Joost.
Mike, are there any questions that we can take at this time as we switch?
Actually, we have had one that has come in the meantime, and the question, not surprisingly, is a OneView Foundation license required for this product? And I did that specifically with mentioning about watch lists and some of the reports and all that.
Yeah, it's not necessarily required. It is if you want to use the watch lists. If you don't want to use it, then you don't need the license, and the entire application will still 100% function as we'll show you today.
Okay, so much like other products, the extensions for things like watch lists does require, as Oracle would, the OBR Foundation, but it certainly does not keep the functionality from all the other benefits from being utilized.
Exactly. It's more or less there for user experience or UI purposes, but it's not required. Yeah. Okay.
That's all we got for now. Thanks,
Okay.
Richard.
Yeah. So this is Richard. I will take over the live demo. So what I will do, I will go directly to our production environment or our demo environment, where I will log in as a AP administrator. I have this role without any security settings, meaning that I can do everything, see everything. Of course, in real life that will never be the case, but for demo purposes it's quite convenient. So as soon as I sign in, I end up at a E1 page. And this E1 page does represent one of the process flows that we can facilitate. So typically all the processes that are used in standard or in JDE Edwards today, we can automate. We can think of invoices with a purchase order, which can be fully automatically matched without any user intervention, and only look at those exceptions that need to be handled. That's the second part of my demo. We can also work with a lot of scenarios for invoices without a purchase order, as Joost explained, the cost invoices or direct invoices. And we have a variety of processes to support. So we can either use the locked voucher scenario, a preliminary voucher. We can create a voucher at the beginning of the process. We can create a voucher at the end of the process after all the approvals have been performed. And we can also mix the scenarios. So a wide variety of options available. If we look at the entry points, we see here the yellow or orange buttons. What I did as preparation for this demo, I did email 2 invoices to a designated email box. And those emails will be handled and pushed to a worked email folder. But before they are moved there, the invoice is already visible in a certain status inside JDE Edwards. The status, again, is based on the process flows that we need to facilitate. That invoice is visible in the SCANMAN workbench, and actually that is the heart of the application. So what we will need to do here is manage the process. The first step, as Joost explained, is doing the verification, which I will also start off with. And then, based on the configuration, automatically the system will define and decide what type of workflow to follow. So if it's an invoice without a purchase order, it will automatically flow into the configured non-purchase order related flow. or if obviously a purchase order is in place, we will try to automatically match the invoice and only look at exceptions. So if I press the button, the workbench button, and I already zoomed in a bit for you to be able to read it, we see on the right hand side the image viewer, as Joost was explaining. In the middle, a work list of all the invoices that you need to take care of, and on the left hand side, invoice data. So first, let's have a look at the invoice list. So we have a long list of invoices, and actually this list does contain all the invoices that you have been processing since you are using SCANMAN. So this means that we need to look at statuses. Bear in mind, I'm an AP administrator and I can look at all the statuses. But what we typically do is if you open an application like the one you're looking here or seeing here, then based on the workflow step or your process action that you need to take, we will make sure that we filter the information. For example, here we see verification. This means those invoices need to be verified. So if you log in as a user, you will only see the invoices that are for you to work your way through. From an AP administrator point of view, of course, I see all statuses. The nice thing of working with statuses is that they can be specified or made specific for your business processes. So you don't need to use them all. We can make them user defined, or actually they are user defined. So your business processes define the statuses that we have. Obvious ones are invoices are in error, or they are rejected, or maybe they are under review because we don't know what to do with it. They can be rejected, and so forth and so on. On the right hand side here, we see the picture viewer. The picture viewer is showing the invoice and all the data that we have been capturing. We can detach the invoice and put it on a second screen, which can be very convenient because then this picture can be made smaller or not presented at all, so that we have more information to look at. And we see that it's multi-page. We can zoom in, we can zoom out. So I'm going to explain what a verification actually is. So I'm selecting an invoice. I will start off with the non-purchase order related scenario. And what we need to understand is that this list is a list that can be looked at by several individuals on, for example, the AP department. We call that a multi-threaded work list. If you have a multi-threaded work list, you should reserve that invoice because you are the one that is going to verify. And I will do that. So I will click the edit button. And then what will happen is that the system will verify the information automatically. So the information that we have captured from the invoice is automatically verified to help the user. But still, we need to look at it from a visual point of view. So let's have a look at the keyword concept. So I'll zoom in and we have a closer look at the invoice date. As Joe said, we are looking for information such as invoice date, and we have a reference word here, and then behind that we see the 18th of June 2018. If we go to the left, we see here import value and process value. As Joost explained, the import value is the value that you and me, but also the OCR engine, is actually reading from the invoice. So that's what we see here, the 18th of June 2018. And that is actually what we have captured. That information can't be used like this in JDE. So what we did, or what the system does, we automatically, with algorithms and rules, business rules, we transform that into the specified and specific invoice format that the company in which we are going to create the voucher in is set up to accept. Another example is the invoice number 180522, and that's what we see here. We don't have to make any changes there because it's just the same, but still from a visualization point of view, we need to check if that's correct. But we're also helped by the system because the same checks and controls as that you have in standard JDE will be applied already here. So for example, if you have said to generate a warning, typically we make an error out of it. If you trigger a warning, then the system will show you that here with the yellow rectangle. If you enter a voucher or create a voucher in JDE, you have to enter more header fields. One of the other header fields is the company ID and the supplier number. As you see here, the supplier number is found, which is a 5-digit address book number inside JDE Edwards. And it is found based on a value. And that value is, as Joost explained, any unique characteristic that's on the invoice. Typically, things like bank account numbers, tax IDs, VAT numbers, Chamber of Commerce numbers, tax numbers, all those kind of things. And if they are already in your address book, they are very easy to use because automatically the system will make the translation. And that's what we see here. So this number has been found as a valid tax ID in the JDE Edwards address book, and that is being used to find the supplier number. But bear in mind, every single unique reference can be used, such as the address 2407 Woodstove Avenue, the pizza factory, phone number, email address. Up to you to make that decision what kind of reference we are using. We will help you, of course, telling which one is better suitable for actions like this. But again, you have your own options and choices there. The company ID, we also did find the 5-digit company ID. Unfortunately, it will be very convenient if your suppliers would put your company ID on the invoice, but typically they don't. So we need, again, a cross-reference functionality. The same applies here. Any unique reference on the invoice we can use to find the company number. This means that in this case I use our legal entity name, FORZA Consulting BV in the Netherlands, but I could also have used our Bulgarian or Belgian branch as a designator, and automatically based on the keyword or on the word, it does find company 260. We could have also used the address, postal code, as said, any unique characteristic on the invoice. The verification of such an invoice is visual. However, we do apply all business rules JDE Edwards has, such as if we press here, we will see that the company value is already validated against with a visual assist to ensure that we only have valid information in the system and correct. The same applies for the supplier number. Purchase order number I'm going to talk about later, and here we see related header fields. Again, from a demo point of view, I'm an AP administrator, so I see everything and I can change everything. So typically we make this specific for your business processes. So if there is a need to be able to change the GL date for whatever reason, or you want to fetch the payment terms from the invoice and check that, we can facilitate that, and then you create additional usage for those fields. Next to the header fields, we also have to capture the amount fields. And the amount fields we see here, like a gross amount and a net amount and a tax amount. And I move the slider a little bit downwards, and we see those values appearing here. We see 5 lines, so this means that we can work with 5 different tax lines per invoice. Up until now that was or is sufficient. We have never come across a scenario where we had more. What we also can do is include like discounts and other charges here. So what do we see here? The same concept. So if I press a value here, oh, you see that it becomes editable. And if it's editable, then and you change it for whatever reason, then we keep track of those changes. So here we see 176.11 becomes like red, meaning that we have pushed something in a audit trail, ensuring that we can see if important fields such as amounts are being changed. Not only for from an audit trail point of view, but also for measuring the OCR performance. Again, everything we do is validated against the JDE Edwards business rules. So here we see a tax rate area code, which can automatically be calculated and selected or fetched from your current tax settings. Because if I would press here, I would just go to your JDE Edwards tax setup. We support all tax codes and all calculation methods in JDE Edwards. Also, all the other business rules such as rounding and tolerances are being applied. Okay. From a process point of view, what I will do now is process this invoice. This is an invoice without a purchase order. So either I'm going to ask an individual in the organization to code this invoice, such as a head of a department or another process owner, project manager, those kind of roles, where should I allocate this cost to? Or I can do it myself. For demo purposes, I will do it immediately here on the AP department. I said I could also have sent an email message to an individual in the organization asking to perform that action. So what did I do from a verification point of view? Not that much. It took me a while to talk it through, but actually I didn't change anything. I just checked if everything is okay. So what the next step is that we just press a button. And the button says, bring it to the next step in the workflow. Depending on if it's a non-purchase order related invoice or a purchase order related invoice or any other scenario, it will figure that out by himself, the system SCANMAN. So I just press it and then I will be pushed to a next screen. In this case, in this scenario, the AP department or the person doing the verification is also going to select the account. If that is not the scenario that you would like to have, or you have a scenario where in some scenarios you want to have this and in others you want to ask someone, we can send out notifications, and as soon as I press a button they will end up here. So the process is the same. So what I need to do, I need to allocate this amount to one or more lines in the GL to capture the cost. As said, we are in GL, so I can select every single account that is within my security profile. So I can just use the visual assist and select an account. So I have a demo account 4327. This account can be populated automatically because we can use the default expense account, for example, from your supplier. We can use the model journal entries associated with your supplier. We can asset code it to one or more lines. We see here remaining amount to distribute is 176.14 because I have to jump to the next line, and then you will see there is nothing to be redistributed. But what we do see is that automatically an approval route code is selected, and this approval route code is pushing this invoice into an approval hierarchy. And in this approval hierarchy, Joost Engel will be the first approver until like $50, and from $50 and above it's me. This gives me the opportunity to show you both an email notification as well approving via the mobile application. Again, from a workflow point of view, as soon as you press OK, the system will make up his mind and define what the next workflow step is. The next workflow step in this scenario will be returning to the verification list and verifying the next invoice and the next and the next and the next. What we will see is something green, and something green typically means it's okay. So what we did in this scenario, immediately we created a voucher out of this. So after verification, after coding, we kicked off a workflow, getting it approved, but in the meantime we already created the voucher. This voucher can be a logged voucher, can be GL, can be a normal voucher, or another preliminary status. And I will show. So as soon as I'm pressing the View Voucher button, I will be moved to the supplier ledger inquiry because the invoice is there. So what do we see? A pretty standard voucher is being created with a document number as you have been using it up until today. The amounts, if we go to the details, again, it's just an ordinary voucher. What else do we see? A paperclip up front, and this paperclip gives you the opportunity to look at the original picture as how you have received it from your supplier. We ask you, where do you want to store this attachment? Do you want to store it at the supplier ledger inquiry form, or do you want to store it at any other form in JDE? That's one thing. Typically we do it here, but also where's the physical storage of this PDF? Is it as a standard media object in JDE, or is it at a network location, cloud solution, document management solution? So again, that's up to you. We see the picture here, but also on the right hand side, I have to move this a little bit. On the right hand side, 1 second. We have a button, and if I press that, we see also an image of the picture of the invoice actually. And wherever you are in JDE, on every form where you have document number, document type, document company, you can look at that picture via CafeOne technology. This means that not only here, but also in the account ledger inquiry, during the payment process, you can look at the voucher. Last but not least, we see the pay status. This is on hold because the invoice, of course, is not eligible for payment because we need to get it approved. But where actually is that invoice? Again, CafeOne technology. If I press the button on the right-hand side here, I will see where that invoice is. Today it is, or now it is actually at the desk of Joost Engel because he needs to approve that invoice. Above that, it's me, Richard. This screen is an overview or a form that we use on the AP administrator's dashboard, from which that role can oversee and overlook the whole process. But you can use that information to be presented on every single form again, where the document number, document type, document company is available. Before I'm going to approve this invoice, I'm going to ask if there are any questions that I can answer as we speak.
One, it's a fairly detailed one, but can you set it so that invoices can go through automatically if there are no problems or errors? For example, with a purchase order related invoice where the distribution is known and everything matches up. So I guess what they're getting at there is more of a, like an untouched by human hands kind of process where it's coming in. Yeah,
so that's the best automated option, of course. And we have a status for that. And that status is called error. So this means that if the OCR engine is getting an error on a business rule or on a missing supplier number, and we have automated fully, so only look at exceptions, then instead of doing the verification, you have to look at the errors. So the answer is yes, we can facilitate that. Yeah.
Okay, so stuff can just fly right through them. That's great.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
That's it for now then.
Okay. So then let's go to the approval side of things. So let's get back to that invoice. So I will get that voucher in again, view voucher, and look at the approval status. So in the meantime, an email has been sent to Joost Engel, and I have, for this demo, ported that email to my own email address because that's convenient. And what we see is that we have a free form text message or an email message. So you can define whatever you need from a text point of view and metadata point of view, like Joost Engel and the invoice numbers, supply numbers in that email address. But what is important right now is, how do I get that invoice approved? We can send an email for every single invoice, or like a daily email saying we have added invoices to your queue to have a look at, all those kind of things from a workflow point of view. But as soon as I press this button, what will happen is that I will be guided back to JDE to an application which has been designed for one purpose and one purpose only, approving or rejecting invoices. So it's pretty easy to explain an individual what he needs to do there. We can also, by the way, associate or add the picture to the email message. We can add the original documents and so forth and so on. We can add attachments that have been added during the process. So lots and lots of options. But for now, I will just press SCANMAN Invoice. I will go in here. I'm now Joost Engel. So I will log in as Joost Engel. And this is one way of approving invoices via the application. I will zoom in for you. 100%, that's easier. So every information available or needed to approve the invoice will be visible down here. In this case, it's to which line has it been coded, but we have more options. On the right-hand side, we can show the picture. We can look at the picture here as an attachment. We can add attachment, which might be of use for the next person in the approval process. As Joost said, we can put it on hold. We can ask a question to an individual in the organization. The nice thing about that is that it is also added to the audit trail. So you will always be able to see what kind of questions and answers have been asked and given. You can reject an invoice. And as Joost also said, we make it mandatory to give an a rejection reason. We see here 3. Rejection reasons, again, are usually defined because based on this, a rejection process needs to be taken care of. For now, I will just do the happy flow. So I will approve it. I will give a reason like approved, and Joost Engel is approving it. So he says to me, fine, Richard, please approve too. Yeah. If I press OK, and I would have had more invoices in my list, or Joost would have more invoices in his list, then those will be visible. He doesn't have them, so the application closes. From an AP point of view, if you look here and I press the find button because I have to refresh, then immediately you see that real time the information is updated. So like 2047 local time here, Joost Engel approved that invoice. Fine, Richard, please approve too. As said, any question, answers, other things will be added to the workflow queue. I have received a message as well, but what I will do now is show you via the mobile app how to approve this invoice. And I think I have it still here. Yeah. So I will share my phone. There it is. So I go to my SCANMAN app, which is somewhere on the right. Here it is. So I will be asked to authenticate myself, and I authenticate myself with a email address, password, and in a secure cloud authentication, it will be checked. But what it will do, it will actually look at my address book number in JDE. So in this scenario, I don't have to be a JDE user. I just have to have an address book number to have the approval hierarchy and an association with the email address. As soon as I log in, I will be in JDE immediately. And I visualize that by selecting a environment. Of course, in real life, you will not see that. But here I'm going to 92 PD. And I have a longer list than Joost of invoices. If the invoices are red, then they are overdue. So I need to hurry up a bit. But here is my invoice, 4372, 4372. So I can go in there. I can look at the picture here. I can approve it based on that, or I can look at the additional details. In this case, I will do that. The same functionality as we have seen in the approval via the email message. Again, here I can look at the picture as well and do the zoom in, zoom out, all those kind of things. But as I said, the happy flow I'm going to use, so I will just approve it here and say via app. And I can give a reason like final approval. There's one word mentioning, approved it for referral. If you do that, you extend the workflow not only with Joost and Richard, but with a third person. But I will keep it simple. So I do done, confirm approve, and then I will go back to the list for updating or approving or rejecting other invoices. But again, as said, I was working in JDE, so this is real time. Press find. The invoice line or order trail is updated, final approval via app. The pay status is flagged from on hold to approved, and that's the end of this scenario because this invoice is now eligible for payment. The order trail is updated. If I go back from an AP management point of view, look at the invoice. It has a complete process status. We have lots and lots of audit data details on the right hand side. And also from a process point of view, when did what occur? So how long, for example, did it take to get the workflow approved? 10 minutes, 18 seconds. How long did it took before someone on the AP department updated the data? 35 minutes. So a lot of information. I need 5 minutes to demonstrate the purchase order scenario, but are there any questions on this scenario, Michael?
No, not so far.
Okay. So I will quickly go to another invoice. It's exactly the same, but we are now reading line items. So if I look more closely, we see two things here. We see order number, and we see boxes around columns. So the order number is now here, 4373, And we see on the reference, which is an item number and the quantity, what is it, rate, unit price, total price, extended price, and those are captured. So from a verification point of view, I will press the edit button and do the same. And then what we see down here is that all the lines of the invoice are captured. We have a lot of additional functionality related to receipts are not matching, inserting lines, as Joost explained, but I will keep it simple. From a verification point of view, what we need to do is verify the header, which I just showed you. We need to look if the purchase order number is populated. If this is the case, then the system will know that we have to push this into the automated matching scenario. But we can also, we need to flag the supplier or set a rule by which we are doing that. So that's what we see here. So this information here, Rule 99, this says something with tolerances and those kind of things. Rule 99 combined with the fact that we find the purchase order number is making sure that this process is automatically matching or trying to match that that invoice. Yeah. So the verification is the same. So we look at the amounts, and amounts are captured correctly, and we also verify the lines. If we verify the lines, we need to visually check if all the lines are correctly captured. But that can be a little bit of a job. So what we do, we bring in business rules again. So here we see 166.13. We see that here, which is the total of the invoice, which is from the header, and the total of the lines read, 166.13. So this means that the OCR engine was spot on with capturing all the lines and their values, because otherwise there would be a difference. So those kinds of controls and checks are there. So very quickly we can verify the invoice, and also, as said, we can skip this step if these types of values are correctly captured and visualized. So what do we need to do? Just again press Save in Process Voucher, and then the system will automatically select the correct workflow. So I do that, select Save in Process Voucher, and now I stay here because the system, I will quickly press Find, the system will automatically try to match that invoice. So the status of that invoice changes so that the user can perform the next verification and the next and the next and the next. But what is actually the status of this invoice? The status of this invoice is M, voucher match automation in process. And what actually happens is that the system is going to try to match that invoice at the end of the day, immediately after this session, and it will try to match it 1, 2, 3 days in a row and then put it in an exception handling flow. So that's really depending on your business process. So let's see if that's already done. I press the Find button, yes, a checkbox is there. So fully automatically, without any user interference, this invoice is matched. So the only thing we need to do is look at exceptions if it's not matched. Because what we actually did now, and I will look at the voucher again, view voucher. Now move this to the side. We create a voucher with a pay status of A because we had a full match. If we look here, we see that it's something else than the previous invoice because this is a three-way match automatically performed. As said, the pay status is approved, but again, we can configure that. In this scenario, there is no workflow associated with it because we don't need to do that. And the rest is all the same, like an attachment here and the picture of the invoice on the right-hand side. Of course, if you look at a PO-based scenario, we have lots and lots of scenarios, and that is typically something that we tailor during follow-up demonstrations. Looking at the time, I think I have to hand it over to my colleagues.
We do have a couple of questions that have come in at the end here. Yeah. So we'll just cycle through them if that's okay. Yeah. That's for clarification on one. I've not gotten it back yet, but can SCANMAN match a PO for a partial payment? And my assumption there is that it's matching an invoice comes in for less than the full amount of the purchase order. Yeah, so yeah. So partial receipt sort of thing.
Yeah. So we can work with partial receipts. Yeah. So that's one of the scenarios that that can be facilitated. Yes.
Okay. The other one is, what if the invoice, if there is an invoice for a purchase order, but the order number is not on the invoice? Pretty common scenario, right? Supplier sends you an invoice but doesn't reference the purchase order number. How does it match? How do you match the invoice to the PO?
Yeah, then you can select that invoice manually from the purchase order file. So you just have to enrich the information. Yeah, or you key it in manually. Yeah.
Okay, so on the matching screen there, you could find the purchase order, pull it in, call it up, and carry on the match on from there.
Exactly. Yeah. So even if continue, please.
That's perfect. Yep.
Okay. So then I will give the final minutes of this presentation back to Joost.
Okay, thank you, Richard. So we've seen how SCANMAN works and the value it delivers. So all that rest is to learn how to implement. So basically we have a 5-step implementation approach where our first step is to have an AP analysis. Typically what we do here is just go through your AP processes with your AP staff and finance, charting what your process is today, how you want it to be used to SCANMAN, and we'll document all that. Typically simultaneously we'll run phase 2, which is the technical implementation. This is where we deliver the SCANMAN components to your premise and install the solution. Basically it installs like an ESU, and then of course we need the OCR server up and running as well. Our third step in our implementation approach is the functional implementation, and this is where we configure the solution in accordance to the AP analysis that we did together at the very beginning. Once we finalize that third stage, it's time for your users to start training, and after that they can start testing the solution, and if the configuration meets the requirements as we had defined them during the analysis phase. If everything checks out to be okay, we'll go live. If it isn't, we'll make some modifications ensuring your processes are the way you want them to be structured, and then we'll go live after that. Looking at a implementation time frame, typically somewhere around the 4-month time mark from project kickoff up until your go live moment. Well, as you can see, SCANMAN has been widely adopted by JDE Edwards users across the globe, and also ranging from the United States and Canada to Australia, China, and across Europe as well. Also across multiple industries, including real estate, banking, manufacturing, wholesale and distribution, professional services, construction, and healthcare. So we have over 50 customers at this stage, supporting over 70 AP departments and shared service centers with SCANMAN, and together they process a little over 5 million invoices annually. So we have customers processing just a few just smaller amounts of invoices or smaller volumes, but we also have customers processing thousands a week and upwards as well. So I'd just like to zoom in to some of our customers. First up is RioCan, which is Canada's largest real estate investment trust. They have over 100 JDE Edwards companies, all supported with just a single SCANMAN installation. And it's just to show the scalability of our solution. They're in real estate, so every company in JDE Edwards actually represents a property, and we're able to route all those invoices across those properties to the correct budget owner or project managers. Next up is Datacolor. Interesting from the perspective that they run a single global JDE Edwards instance. They have decentralized AP departments, so they're running AP in New Jersey, but also in China, and also across in their entities here in Europe, all within a single SCANMAN installation as well. So that's just to show the multi-currency, multi-language capabilities of our solution there. One of our favorite customers is Cabrini in Australia. They were the first to replace a very well-known solution. The reason for them to replace it for SCANMAN was that they were looking at a very costly upgrade of their current solution to make sure that it remained compatible with their upgraded JDE Edwards instance. Second value driver for them was the flexibility of the OCR engine, which their current solution wasn't delivering, and they were looking for greater flexibility and improved recognition rates, which they're able to achieve with SCANMAN. And then there's Intergen, which is very similar to Datacaller, multi-international company running AP, decentralized AP across a variety of countries. Once again, highlighting the multi-currency and the scalability of the solution. With that, Richard and I would like to thank you for joining us, and I'm going to give the words to Mike.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. A couple of last little comments as well. On the screen on the previous slide, a number of those are either Team Kane customers directly for other things that we do, or ones, for example, like Bosselman, like North American Construction Group, where we worked with the customer to implement the solution. The common feedback that we hear from the customers that we know and worked with, or that we know and that worked directly with FORZA on the solution, was they love it because it's JD Edwards. The mobile approvals are awesome and very much a current kind of technology. The quick and structured implementation really raised the bar on getting to success. The audit trail and details of every step that it goes through when the documents come in, however they come in, to the point where they get into final approval and processed through and paid in JD Edwards, are fabulous. JD Edwards is all about flexibility and adaptability, and the solution here is very much the same. And most of them really like the new features as well, like E1 pages, Cafe 1 watch lists. It's been interesting that some of the customers that we've spoken to, seeing it in operation within SCANMAN was the first time that they actually saw some of those features in a real-world incarnation. So, and it's just an example of when you're working with a solution that is JD Edwards and it's from an organization like FORZA that keeps up to date, your solution keeps up to date as well. So, in terms of the next steps, hopefully this has been helpful for you. Absolutely be thrilled to do a personalized demonstration presentation for your organization. Even if it's just before that, even just a detailed Q&A, you'll likely go away and think of some additional questions as you ponder how this could work in your specific environment. So happy to do that. The investment discussion, we all recognize that somebody needs to pay the bill, and having a sense for what the bill is, what the investment is, but probably as importantly, where is your payback going to come from? We'd be happy to have that discussion with you. So as mentioned, thanks again for your time. Richard, Joost, thanks as always. And sure. As you exit out, remember the survey there. You can help us out, and we'll be reaching out to you to see what else we can do, other questions that we can answer, whether you might be interested in some of the next steps that we mentioned here going forward. So thanks, everybody, for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.